Hey, welcome everybody. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Untitled Chapter podcast. I am one of your hosts, Everett Stevenson, joined with my other co-host.
Hey everybody, I am one of the other co-hosts, Samantha Adams.
Hey everybody, I'm another co-host, Malik Foster, that's my name. And today we have a good topic for you guys. We're going to talk about the Whyt Choice. That's the title of this video today. And basically what we're going to take a look at this week is prominent Black figures in the Black community that are actually married to white people, right? So I know we have a few clips lined up for you guys, and we really want to bring this topic to the Black community because we feel as though a lot of prominent Black people are in relationships, marriages, specifically with white people. So we want to take a look at that, like why aren't they marrying other Black people? So we want to take a little deep dive and analysis into that situation. Everett, do you have any clips that you want to
Sure, yeah, I'll go straight into the clip real quick that we found. And this was something that was a documentary that was done by the individuals, this documentary was done by DW Documentary, which I believe is a German public broadcasting company. And within that, they have, within this, they have did a documentary on Black Americans, I guess of high class and high wealth. So the first person that we're about to see an example of is an individual named Mr. Peoples. He's a real estate developer, and I think they're gonna give a little more detail to him as well.
Developer and one of the richest African Americans in the United States. His estimated net worth is $700 million. He's a staunch believer in capitalism as the path to success.
I see capitalism first. I see the massive amount of development and the massive amount of people working and doing business.
So that's just a little background about him. I'm going to get a little later on in the clip real fast, where the interviewer asked him questions.
I was driving in Washington through an area and saw her jaywalking the street, and so I introduced myself. And the next day, I invited her to New York, and she came with me, and then the rest is history.
Did you ever feel any scrutiny to marry a white woman?
No, I mean, I married who I loved. I mean, again, I'm multicultural and multiracial, so I think people should, date and marry who they love, regardless of race, gender, etc.
A New York fairy tale and a relationship that's lasted 3 decades. Today, they've chosen to meet in an upscale French restaurant. Katrina is a former model from America's white upper class. Though she's a businesswoman, she's completely devoted to her husband and their 2 children.
All right. So there's another clip here of another successful individual within the Black community, and I'm going to go to that clip here just a second.
Psyche Terry is the founder of a cosmetics brand.
Sorry about that, guys. We got a little
My grandfather chose to be in a business that sells things that people.
She's currently worth $10 million.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, good morning.
A millionaire herself, she's become a symbol of the new Black American dream.
Just got a brand new catalog.
Yay, let me see. Oh my God, they're so pretty. Like, seriously, this is my new logo.
Though her brand is primarily geared towards Black women, Psyche Terry's staff includes a diverse group of employees.
And so
we employ white people, Black people, Latina people, Asian people. We'll take anyone that has a heart that beats at the same drum.
Who she's married to? Just a second.
So I have to always put things on me. It's like going out in the rain. You need a raincoat. It's just the fact of being a Black woman in my skin. So I decided to use things that were in my own kitchen.
I think right here she's describing
her idea
business.
took off. Her products are now sold nationwide. Her husband, Von Toba, a former financial professional, also helped her company get on its feet.
Have a good day.
This morning, the couple is meeting with their investors. Former professional baseball player Torrey Hunter and his wife Katrina have invested $250,000 in the Terry's business.
Another clip that I really wanted to show real quick before we leave here on here, and they kind of referenced one of the things that they talked about, that we talked about in last week's episode, which dealt with how do people of high net wealth kind of keep their children motivated, especially individuals who come from entrepreneurial type of endeavors who've had to build their wealth. How do they allow their children to kind of stay motivated, to kind of stay hungry for success when they may be born into a lifestyle of privilege? And I believe she addresses that in part of their storyline right here.
Are you ready? Yes. Let's do it.
When she talks about her home,
I am a
Mrs. Terry
child
talks
guy.
about her home.
I am a warrior.
I'm a warrior.
I am a Terry.
I'm a Terry.
I never give up.
I never give up.
I have
faith.
Faith that hard work will always lead to success. To motivate their children to do their chores, Psyche Terry and her husband hold an award ceremony.
Who's gonna get it? This award is going to someone who may have a smaller appetite.
Yeah.
They will eat as much as they possibly can. This award is going to go to none other than Faithy Terry. Yay! Good job, everybody. Working hard and earning is the behavior that we like to show in the house, because we know in the world in America that when you work hard, usually you get a payoff for it. So we would like to instill here at home that working hard equals winning something.
One thing I wanted to just simply say on that topic, just real quick, and I know this is kind of a little bit off in regards to what we're talking about tonight, though, but I think that there was just something that needed to be noted, because I think she said the key words there: working hard usually rewards into hard work. And I think that's critical, because we have to understand there's a lot of people who work hard on a daily who don't receive it, right? Like, so if you may be working a couple minimum wage jobs, you might have 2 or 3 different jobs, you're working hard, you know what I'm saying? And while that might not pay off initially within the regards to like payments of like, income, higher income initially, but I think the thought process is that if you're able to kind of save and manage your money at that point and then be able to invest into other things, you may be able to eventually get to a place where your hard work will then be able to pay off, because you will have maybe capital, or you will have other assets or resources that you can use to help you develop your wealth. And I think that's something that needed to kind of be clarified, so that individuals understood exactly what she meant by that, or at least my interpretation of what she meant by that. But I thought this was an interesting clip to start off our show, because it shows the 2 different dynamics in which there's individuals in here who are married and who show like that they made a conscientious effort. I think when we talk about when we looked at Mrs. Terry and her story, we could see that there's a lot put into her making sure that her children, are that she's hands-on with her children, and she's making sure that her children have daily affirmations. They're a younger age, so that that she's working to develop their character and things to make sure that they have a strong foundation of working hard. And I think she also just talks about being mindful of her race and her color and how that affects in with her business, as well as how she markets her business, things of that nature. And going on, I think in that same clip, she talks about it within her and society, and her husband, as they try to acclimate to mainstream society, out there. And I think they're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that was something that I thought was a good clip to show, because in contrast, we have a businessman that's living in New York, as well as I believe he was in DC as well, who has amassed well over like 10 digits a net worth. So he's in upper 10 digits at that. So we see this gentleman, and one of the things that he said is that race isn't something that he kind of takes into consideration. And I think that may be something that we look at when we have to look at the fact that he said he was multiracial. And I think when we look at some of the background that they showed in the clip, showed that his parents were, that he had maybe a white parent as well coming up. So that may have also played a factor in his decision as to deciding, hey, I've seen this type of lifestyle coming up, so this might be something that I'm willing to that I'm more familiar with, that I'll kind of do. Another thing I think that's interesting too is, he's kind of very fair complected. So it doesn't necessarily look, and I don't necessarily want to go into a colorism statement within this, but I do think that may have helped in some regards to, him and the treatment that he may receive from some individuals when maybe presenting his business offers and loans and things like that, when he has to interface with clients day to day. The fact that, he has a complexion that people may be a little bit more comfortable with dealing with, as opposed to, when we saw Mrs. Terry, again, she had her hair kind of cut short a little bit. She had braids, those are a little more ethnic styles of hair and presentation. But I believe that it's beautiful to see, because it shows that you can be yourself and be accepted for yourself, and are able to create wealth within this country. I think another thing that they said is she started hers with like maybe $40-50 and just some of the ingredients that she had in her house, and built up her business. We're not exactly sure how Mr. Peoples built his business.
No, it does say he started when he graduated from school. He was like 22 when he bought his first building or a home or something like that, and he made his first million by the time he was 30. And so one of the things about Mr. Peoples that I found to be interesting, his journey, he started off during the civil rights era. And so what he did was, when he started seeing those changes, he decided to get into real estate, because I think he said his father or somebody was in real estate. One of his relatives was in real estate. And so he decided to get into that because he saw that there was going to be a need, because it was during, like I said, during the civil rights era. And so I think that it's also really important to recognize the difference between their businesses, right? Where Mr. Peoples, his business is not geared to any particular demographic of people, right? Just people who can afford a home. So, or building or whatever, right? He's referred to as being the Black Donald Trump in many circles, things like that. And so his business is not geared to Black people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, just people who want to buy property. Whereas with Miss Terry, her and her husband, that business is, the demographic is Black people, right? She created a product because of the issues she was having with her own Black skin. So I think that's also something too to take into account when you're looking at their businesses, the types of businesses that they have, the way that they function with their lifestyles, because here you have a biracial man who doesn't, he has no need to focus on Black stuff. You know what I'm saying? He is very cognizant of the fact that he's considered to be a Black man in America, although he's biracial, because there is a portion of that clip, if you guys go check it out, where he talks about cars. Cars is his guilty pleasure. He has over $1 million worth of cars, but when he started buying cars, he gets very leery about the type of cars that he buys because of his concerns about being a Black man with a fancy car. So you know, I think that's very interesting. Like, he didn't want to get a Rolls Royce, even though it's very comfortable, because of the issues that he could potentially encounter as a Black man with a Rolls Royce. He prides himself on not living the same type of lifestyle as an entertainer or an athlete, a Black athlete or a Black entertainer, rather. I just want to make sure I clarify that. And what I found to be interesting is that he felt as though his lifestyle is more elegant. And I thought that was an odd characterization, because you don't know the lifestyle of entertainers or athletes, right? You just know what you see. And it's a very, very, very small percentage of things that you see, right? Many of them have very large estates. Many of them have lots of beautiful cars. Many of them have private jets and chauffeurs. Everything that we saw him with, the possessions that he had, didn't look too too different from that of a Black entertainer or a Black athlete. So I don't know if it was necessarily more elegant, but his lifestyle is definitely different. Why? Because he has a different way of making money. He makes money through real estate, right? And on top of that, him and his wife, I think it's really important also to mention this, that him and his wife, he has an apartment that's like 35 I can't remember if they said $3.5 million or 35 million. Either way, it's in New York. 35 million. Okay. And then a $12 million mansion in DC. So the $35 million apartment is in New York, and the mansion, which is half that amount, is in DC. And he has to schedule time to
the home in the Hamptons as well.
Yeah.
That's what they'll travel to.
Right. And he has to schedule time to see his wife and things like that. And I think there's nothing wrong with being in a biracial relationship. Nobody here is saying that, right? But what we are saying is that, you know, it's interesting to see these different patterns. It's not true for everybody, right? But it does exist, where you see successful Black people, and they're often in interracial relationships. But you do have very healthy, thriving Black relationships as well, with families and everything else. And they're trying to teach and grow. But I do think that it's important to also recognize the nature of their business, you know, because again, like I said before, her business is based off the color of her skin. It's about her skin. It's about, you know, what she looks like. Her demographic is the people that look like her, whereas his is just not. Wait, did you have anything?
Yeah, based off the video, I was gonna say that I noticed that Mr. Peebles, he basically said, you know, they who you love, which, you know, like you said, Sam, none of us are saying not to date who you love, but what we're noticing is a trend of various prominent Black people in the community. They are choosing to have white spouses, right? So that's a potential problem for the Black community, because that's like wealth that could potentially not stay in the Black community, right? It could leave out, right? Obviously, because you know you're gonna have the biracial children, and maybe they'll marry somebody white, so stuff like that could happen as well. Or they could choose to marry somebody Black too. But we noticed the trend, like a Black person marrying a white person when they're of prominence, right? So I think Mr. Peoples, his outlook on things is like, okay, she's from a wealthy, his wife is from a wealthy upper class white family. So she had that network to access a guy like him of his caliber. So I think that's one of the issues. A lot of people in our community don't know how to access and have that network with our prominent people outside of celebrities and entertainers and sports people, but we don't really access and tap into our business class like that and really focus on our business class, in my opinion, in our community to build those relationships so we can actually, be together in intimate relationships, right? Not just business relationships. But also the Black lady from Dallas, her name is escaping me right now. She's showing another example of, the networking in the relationships. Like you look at what her husband does, he's a financial advisor. So
Her last name
like
is Terry.
Excuse me?
Their last name is Terry.
Oh, okay. Oh, Terry, sorry. So Terry, yeah, her husband, he's a financial advisor, and you can see how, he has some intelligence, some skills that would lead him to access her, right? Because she I don't know, I think she might make more than him, but she's a millionaire too. So maybe, that's how he accessed her. Maybe he was her financial advisor or something. I don't think they really gave too much background on their relationship, like Mr. Peoples, how he just met her and he asked her to come with him to New York and all of that. I don't recall that, but if they did, y'all can let me know. So I think the networking is the key that I take away from here, from the clips, and yeah.
I think I think the networking is certainly a perk, but I don't think that was the intent. Like, based on what Mr. People said, is he saw her, and this was just after he made his first million, right? So it was like he saw her, he liked her, he got with her, and he married her. Like, that was pretty much his whole thing. Now, was there probably more to it than that? Quite possibly.
Yeah, I think so. Like, she had to be in the right place to access him. So like,
well, I mean, when he saw her, remember she was jaywalking. So you know what I mean? It was literally just some woman walking across the street. I don't think
she has to be in the vicinity of these people, where they hang out. What
I'm saying is she literally is just a person walking across the street when he met her. When he met her, he wouldn't have had any way to know what her financial status was or anything, because she was literally walking across the street when, he met her. He probably found these things out later. Who knows? Only he would know as to whether or not.
Depend on the side of town he's on, though, as well.
No, it doesn't, because I could easily I could be broke. Think about it. You see homeless people all the time on the side of the road begging for money in a rich area, right? So, I mean, you never know. You never know.
That's debatable. I'll say that's debatable. Only because in certain neighborhoods they won't have, like, they have, like, restrictions that y'all people kind of like lure.
Yeah, they don't like. They don't have
but guys, think about it for a second.
There's certain areas
that means
they can go through the bag.
But what I'm saying is she's jaywalking. That means she's in an area where the streets are busy, right? You got to be in a busy area to be for somebody to even think of you as jaywalking. You see what I mean? So it was probably downtown someplace, and she's walking across the street. And when you're talking about DC, because that's where you met her, anything could have been happening in DC. Because think about it, the White House is one way, and literally a couple blocks down the street, you have a whole bunch of homeless people. So you know what I mean? She literally could have been anybody walking across the street when he met her. And what I'm saying is that once he got to know her and know a little bit more about her, we don't know. He very well could have, like you said, Malik, looked at who she was, what her background was.
He did. He kind of said it.
What I'm saying is he could, but that wouldn't have been what initially caught his eye. It's not like he met her at a networking event. He saw her crossing the street, I guess is my point. And that right there could have very easily been, in part, but also too, let's just talk about her for a second, right? She was a model. She is a businesswoman. She makes a lot of money in her own right. She comes from a successful family. So, with that being said, that also matters, right? It matters as it relates to their relationship, right? Because in general, a successful man is going to be a busy man. And this doesn't have anything to do with race, but you got to, in order to be successful, you got to be out there working. And you have to be with somebody that's secure enough to be okay with you not being home as much, right? And you have to be secure in your own self to go out and go get your own. And you got to be able to have a level of understanding to know that that man is going to be busy. Like he has to schedule lunch with his wife. It's not like, hey, boo, you want to just go get some food? Like, no, he's like, all right, Thursday at 12:30, I'm going to meet you at such and such so we can have lunch. Like, he literally has to live by his schedule so that he can continue to have a successful marriage with whomever, right? And I think a lot of time that also goes that gets lost on people when they're talking about relationships with people that are successful, because some people just really have, particularly women, have a hard time being with somebody who's not around very often or very much.
Well, I think one of the things that you guys both mentioned too was background, and I think that's critical sometimes when we talk about people who may have, you know, a certain level of wealth or a certain level of resources, because granted, if they were born with those things, then they kind of maybe come up with an understanding of how they think that life should be and the things that they think that their children should have as they come up. And sometimes I think that may be a challenge, you know, if you're dating with someone who maybe does not necessarily share those same thoughts or understandings, you know, and that can go from a range from education and the way that, you know, you choose to educate your children to the way that you choose to even allow them to have, you know, what type of recreational type of activities that they can participate in, you know, to other cultural type of things that you like allow that child to be exposed to. And so I think that's a major factor when we talk about people maybe being in the public eye or having success within the business world, and what they may look for when they talk about looking for a spouse in particular. Do they kind of relate to the type of the direction in which they feel as though that they're looking to have for the lifestyle and the family that they would like to raise? And so I think we kind of noticed that in regards to the point that you're making. I think her background for Mr. People's wife may have played a major factor in that, because of the fact that he may have understood certain things. He's seen certain things coming up. So he understood, you know, what liberties he may have had as a child coming up. And then if he could find someone that maybe identify with that as well, but also fit into the cultural understanding that he was looking, not necessarily cultural understanding, but it fit into the understanding that he was looking for. I think one of the things that we could look at in particular to that statement, to kind of break that down, is like he said, like, you know, well, I don't feel like I have, you know, these the traditional lifestyle of an entertainer or athlete, right? And it's funny because in the same breath, I think his wife had made reference to how typically they feel stereotyped a lot of times within their communities a lot, right? Because again, they still identify him as a Black male. Excuse me. And so when they normally used to seeing Black people with wealth, they identify them with it being in the entertainment spaces. Just because that's naturally what most people are used to seeing Black people achieve wealth in. And so he talked about how that's one of the stereotypes that he receives. And then she said, like, you know, with her being like a previous model, things like that, a lot of times people kind of think of her just like, you know, this like model, dumb model, like, you know, type blonde hair, whatever, blue-eye model who just, you know, it's like a flutes, if you will, but not understanding that she helps within the business. I believe he said that she works within his business as well. And, you know, helps raise their children. So I definitely think that that's something that we kind of look at, because they both kind of felt like they were stereotyped in that regard. And then also I think too, like, you could look at the type of woman, you know, choosing to marry, like as far as like being one that's like slender and, you know, like you said, like model type back then, because that's typically what we saw, as opposed to nowadays when you look at athletes and what they look at models are, like not traditional like runway models, but like we call maybe like the Instagram and their social media models, if you will. they're a little more voluptuous. They have a little more features such as the traditional native Black woman with, you know, bigger hips, bigger thighs, you know, bigger lips, things of that nature. And we see nowadays that those are some of the things that a lot of people are receiving cosmetic surgeries and things of that nature to acquire those type of looks. And that's typically the type of people that some people will say that the athletes are generally going after, that the entertainers are generally going after. You kind of see those type of women with those bodies, and you know, signify or identify any type of women in particular, but you can reference that just by just looking at some of, you know, some of the more prominent couples within, you know, entertainment history, or excuse me, especially within the rap community, or that you'll see, you know, these guys date. So that's a factor that I thought maybe goes towards what he was trying to say when he says, like, you know, I don't have, you know, the traditional type of lifestyle of an entertainer, this, that, and the third, like, you know, look at the type of wife I have per se, you know. And so that was something that I think that I want to draw a contrast to as well. But another thing that I think that we could talk to is on the flip side, you know, because in this example, we were able to talk about, you know, men and a Black man that was dating a white woman, but there's also, you know, we see those examples as well with Black women, you know, looking to date white men. And I think one of the things that we look at that is, it's not necessarily so much that I feel like it helps with them on the career side, or, you know, maybe within advancements of their careers, but I think it's more so I can't speak for exactly why they do it, but I think one of the things that we notice is a lot of times that gentlemen, or, you know, white men who maybe seemingly have an understanding of the Black culture kind of get paraded as, like, you know, kind of being like one of the it guys, you know, they kind of like get it, or you hear a girl say like, oh yeah, that's my boo, or something like that, or, you know, kind of, I don't want to say fetishize, but give them a little bit more of like a leeway as to say like, oh, okay, I can see myself dating someone like that.
Yeah, let me jump in. I'm sorry to interrupt you, E, but I think it's Black women to white men. Black women are exotic. You see what I'm saying? Black women are exotic, period, to anybody, but not typically viewed that. But Black women are typically not viewed that way amongst Black men. But Black women are typically viewed as being exotic to other races, especially white men. Like, when you look at history, right? When you look throughout history, even when Black men, white men, slave masters would rape Black women, you know, women were objectified, Black women were objectified, looking at the size of their hips, you know, their nose, the size of their butt. Then it was told, you know, Black women were told that all of these features were bad, like, oh, it's not good to have a big butt or big lips or big nose and all that. And now you have women literally rushing out to go get surgery to be shaped like a Black woman, get lip injections, get their butt bigger, things like that, white women included, right? And so I think that goes to some of the things that you were talking about with men and how they fetishize, I don't know if I'm saying that word correctly, the features of a Black woman. But what happens is you have Black men who are going out and getting women, white women who also have these Black female features. Not because, and let's be clear, I'm not referring to people that just like who they like, love who they love, right? I'm not referring to them at all, because there's nothing wrong with that, right? But what I'm referring to is people who specifically go out looking for white men or white women, for that matter, because of what they can gain or how it's going to make them look, as opposed to what's going on with within that relationship between them, right? And so you do definitely see that. And the thing is, the media too, right? The media plays this huge part in what we see. A lot of times we see Black men, successful Black men specifically, with white women, almost as if it doesn't happen for there to be a healthy Black love out there, right? And so when you want to touch on the flip side that you were referring to, when you see Black women in interracial relationships, typically with white men, you see it a lot in politics, right? And you do see it. You don't see it as often as you see it with men, Black men and white women, but you absolutely see it. Case in point, look at our Vice President Kamala Harris, who's a biracial woman, but she's Black. She does identify as being Black sometimes. And also too, when you look at the Supreme Court nominee, Judge, what's her last name? Katanji.
Brown.
Yeah, Brown, Judge Brown. So, you definitely see that. Does that mean that they've quote unquote sold out or lost their Blackness or whatever? I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I don't think I do, but I do. It is something that you notice because there's not really that many Black politicians that are not in biracial relationships. It doesn't mean that they are not, but you just don't see it. And a lot of that has to do with the media, right? Because
you'll see Justice Thomas, you'll see Judge Brown, celebrities, Byron Allen, Don Peebles, a lot of different celebrities, Michael Jordan, Kanye West, all these different rich Black people, they've married white women. Even the richest Black American in the country, Robert Smith, he's married to a white woman. So it's like they all have a specific type. It's like upper class, you hang around those circles, potentially a model. So it's like if you're not falling within those circles, you're probably not going to get the top 1% of Black men. I mean, I don't think it's just.
Well, I mean, also too,
off of rate, just because they're white or whatever. But I think it's a class thing as well.
It definitely is a class thing. I definitely agree with that. But I think for some people that status is almost like you give somebody that's broke, a Black guy broke, straight out the hood, some money, the first thing he's gonna do is go buy jewelry with it, right? First thing he's gonna do is go buy some jewelry. The second thing he's gonna go buy is a foreign car, right? Those are the two top things that they're gonna do. And so I think at some point in time, I don't know if, I kind of feel like the tides are changing some right now, but I do believe at some point, there was a place where it was like, all right, I'm going to go get me a white woman too. You see what I'm saying? I do believe that was a part of that mindset. I don't know if that's really the case now, kind of like what he was saying, because, when you see these models, whether they're Instagram model or if they actually are a high fashion model or magazine model, whatever it is, you definitely see more variety in their ethnicity, but you are also seeing similarities in their body type, their hair, like how everybody looks. Everybody looks the same. Everybody looks like, I'm going to say Beyonce, because I think that even Kim Kardashian mimics her style after Beyonce from time to time. So, I think that it's really, it's an interesting observation. And I do think that, but there are plenty of healthy, the reason why I was mentioning the media is because they put that out there. And I think that in part puts that idea in people's heads, like, okay, when you get successful, you got to go get you a white person. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but because when you also look now, you also see the promotion of Black love, right? You see a whole lot of other people that are in these committed relationships for extended periods of time, and they are Black, right? So we compiled the list. Go ahead.
Let me add real quick. I think another element that might go into that whole, interracial type of situation in particular is because, again, you have to look at it. It was banned and so for quite some time you know, you couldn't date someone outside of your race. So, you know, it's particularly like someone that's white. So I think that element of it is a small factor, because especially for some people who may be a little bit more older. I think in the younger generations, we're kind of more used to, you know, growing up right next to, if you were fortunate enough to go to schools that were diverse, or fortunate enough to at least go to schools that, you know, had a good, you know, education, even in urban communities that maybe weren't as diverse. Both are good fortunes, but I wanted to just state that, like, how back then it kind of might have been like that element of like, oh, you know, well, we can't even do that. Like, you're not even supposed to like look over at them. So like this little, both people may have wanted to kind of, you know, deal with each other or want
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
to
there's
know.
definitely a little racial tension there.
There was
I
like
would say.
there was like a ban from it. Like it almost was like, you know, it's forbidden. And then, you know, the things, one of the quickest ways to make people do something that you don't want them to is to tell them that they
Tell them
can't.
that they
You know
can't.
what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And that's
Right.
definitely going to make individuals want to kind of try to say, like, listen, I'm in society, I'm doing what I want to do. Look, you know, whatever the case may be. But I think at this point, it's more so to what Malik was saying. Also, just understanding of like being a unity, that of being able to say you can adapt, you understand maybe the world and the environment that I might be dealing with when, you know, you come to talking about people with high net wealth and high wealth and great wealth, because generally those, you know, unfortunately white people have had such a tremendous advantage of holding the wealth in this country for so long. I do think though that we do want to just know that it doesn't mean that, you know what I'm saying, that you, in order to become wealthy, that you have to have a white spouse. Because we have numerous examples of people within our communities that have shown that that's not the case. I think one of the big examples that we see was, you know, Denzel and Pauletta Washington. There are some examples of a couple who have been together for a while, who actually, you know, have been able to see each other, see, you know, one of the spouses, Denzel, who's notably known around for his acting skills, rise to the to great prominence, and they've been able to continue to stay with each other. They've been able to support each other. You know, he always talks about his wife and the love that she'd had, and maybe sacrifices that she may have made in order for him to be able to achieve his dream and then go after some of the things. And in turn, he also made sure to, you know, bring her along with him as long as he continued to move forward. I think
Right.
we
The
also
other
have
thing,
examples of Sam and Latasha Jackson.
well, hold
Go
on for a
ahead, Sam.
second. The thing I wanted to hold on real quick. One thing I wanted to say about Denzel, which is really the proper way to say his name, Denzel and Pauletta, is she also was an actress. They started off together in the same field, right? And so, you know, they grew together. I do remember a while back at one point, they or there were talks about them getting a divorce. And I think it was kind of a relief to see when they decided to, you know, continue to work through their differences and move forward in their relationship. But yeah, like you were saying, you were mentioning Samuel and Latanya Jackson. I think you were getting ready to talk about how they've been together for years, like probably since he was in college. They've been together for a very, very, very long time. And she's been extremely supportive of his career and all of the things that he's done. They've been pretty much like activists and have done a lot of work, not just for the community, but Sam Jackson has done a lot, has a great body of work as well. And they've been very supportive of each other. And I think that that right there is beautiful, because you definitely have these great examples of a bunch of people who are like, you know, exercise Black love.
Another one we have is Rev Run and Justine Simmons. That was another good example that we've seen. Chris and Jada Paul, Papoose and Remy Ma. You know, for Barack and Michelle Obama, LeBron and Savannah.
Magic and Cookie.
Yeah, Magic and Cookie. Like you said, Ben Carson and his wife Candy Carson. I think we also listed Grant and Tamia Hill as some other examples of just, and I know a lot of these people that we said were entertainers and some politicians on there as well and athletes, but I think it's most notable because a lot of times those are the people who are called out for dating outside of their race, for being, you know, affluent and not necessarily still staying with people within their own race. I think Russell Westbrook and his wife is another example, fine example of a Black couple who have, you know, met each other again, you know, in college, and just, you know, were able to just build a bond, build a love for each other, build a family, and continuously to grow. So
I think something that's common with all of them, though, aside from just the fact that they're in, you know, a relationship with, you know, other Black people, is the privacy. Like they keep their relationship very private, right? No matter how much the media tries to pry or people try to pry, they're very, very private. I think the most public relationship on there as it relates to what goes on in between them, because even with Michelle and Barack, like they were super public, but as it relates to what goes the ins and outs of their relationship, the most that we got was probably from Magic and Cookie, because right before they got married, the whole thing with him being diagnosed with HIV, you know, the things about, you know, their son coming out of the closet and things like that. I think that's probably the most public that we see. Also too with Reverend Run and his wife, because yeah, Will and Jada, yeah, them too, but that's because they put their stuff on full display. Same thing, that's what I was gonna say about with Reverend Run and Justine Simmons, because they had a whole reality show about, you know, their family. And so, you know, you do definitely, but you see, you know, nobody's relationship is perfect. Everybody has problems, and everybody, and these are some great examples of relationships with people who have really been working very hard, and they work all the time to continue to keep their relationship going. I think that, you know, like I said, I mentioned the public perception.
Can I jump in here real quick, Sam?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think we need a white spouse in our community to actually achieve success, because I know a lot of people think they need a certain type of spouse, like a white spouse, in order to achieve success. I think it's more of a class thing, right? Because if you're rich, you don't want to get with a person who's nowhere near your level, because that could cause problems, right? Divorce. It could cause a lot of financial problems with you trying to bring up their whole people, right? Their family, right? So that could cause a lot of stress and strain on your relationship with your spouse. So I understand why a lot of these prominent Black people do choose other prominent people, right? Or you might just need to start choosing earlier, like as a Black person, right? Like you just don't wait until they're rich, right? You choose them while they're on the come up, on their way to the top, right? You don't choose them when they reach the mountaintop. Once they're on top of their game, you choose them while they're climbing that mountain. So I think that's a situation where a lot of Black people need to reevaluate how they're choosing their spouse, and you know, that whole process. Like, hey, if you like this person and they have that potential, there's nothing wrong with rolling with that person. So everybody wants that person to be already made, and a lot of those prominent rich people already have their spouses, already have their circles. So it's better if you work together to build. So I don't think we need a white spouse is needed in our community in order to achieve success in politics, endorsements, and all that other stuff. I just think we need to work together as a community. So that's all I really want to say.
I just want to piggyback on that. My fault, Sam. I just wanted to wrap up with my final thoughts as well. To Malik's point, I agree with that statement. I don't necessarily think that you necessarily need to have a spouse that's white in order to achieve success in society or in America. I do think that one of the things that will be needed though is that you have an understanding of what it is that you guys are looking to build with your family and how you guys are looking to build, and so that you guys can understand what it is that y'all need to do. I think that's one of the bigger factors that we have to look at, because like we said, with a lot of people, you know, once you kind of get to a certain status level, you know, you have to do certain things in order to maintain that, right? Like, so it might be networking, it might be having to go to galas, things of that nature. I think that Mrs. Terry spoke about. You have to be more involved in your community with the politicians and things of that nature, so that you can be able to have things like laws available to you, or access to other high, I don't want to say, or high ranking individuals in societies who can maybe assist in making you think, helping you to get those things. And I think that that's a lot easier done when you have someone who understands how, you know, capitalism works in society, right? But if, you know, and that's why I wanted to applaud some of those couples that we just referenced earlier, because it was like, you know, as they ascended to a certain level, they were able to say, okay, listen, this is what we might need to do in order for us to stay together. Like you said, you might have everyone feels like, you know, especially within our community, that, you know, you have to take care of everybody. When you're the one that make it, you know what I'm saying? It's your job to make sure that you pay, you know, for your mama's bills, or pay your cousin's tuition, or pay your, you know what I'm saying, nieces or nephews, this or that, you know. And I think like that puts a lot of stress and a lot of burden on people. But I think when you're able to kind of come together, have an understanding within your own home as to how you guys look to approach, you know, each other's family, how you guys look to approach, you know, finances and things of that nature, that will help allow for us to be able to allow, you know, us as a community to stay together. And I think those are some of the things that I think we should need to work on in order for us to be able to have more stronger relationships within the Black community.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think any race of person is needed for success. I think that we can just go ahead and attain it. And if you end up with somebody who's not Black, I think that's your business. I think that you know, if that's who you love, marry who you love. There's nothing wrong with that. But just don't go out there with that goal, like, oh, I gotta get me a white girl, I gotta get me a white man. Like that just diminishes the whole, there's so much you're selling yourself short on by going out and just, you know, pigeonholing yourself into one group. It's nothing wrong with being open. So with that being said, I think that also too, you know, it's okay to find ways to be successful. Like I said, we just gave you a bunch of examples of very successful people in different areas that are married to people that look like them, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so, you know, with that being said, I want to just go ahead and transition into our book of the month. This is the last week that we're going to advertise it. It is Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. Make sure you guys go read it. It talks about social justice and economics, and, you know, how we can continue to grow as a diaspora. I'm not going to say community, because we got to work on that as Black folks. So make sure you please go check that out. Again, it's called Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. It's a good book. It's very informative and educational. Also too, the other thing I wanted to make sure we did not forget is make sure you also check out Observer May. Observer May is a clothing line specifically geared to runners. It's our Black business of the month. It's also woman-owned. Happy Women's Month to all the ladies out there. That business is operated, functioned, and created by former law professor. Her name is Karen Foltz. So make sure you check them out as well. And I know Eve was going to go ahead and give us our motivational minute.
Yeah, the motivational minute is a clip that I've seen from the Instagram, from my Instagram page, Be by Tom. And here is the post. It's like a professor that's speaking. It says "Stay motivated" was the looks like the page that he did the clip with.
I'm gonna give it to one of you, but first let me do this. Now, who still wants it? I do. What if I do this? Now, who wants it now? My dear students, I've just showed you a very important lesson. No matter what I did with this money, you still wanted it because it never lost its worth. It's still worth $20. Well, there are many times in our lives when we feel like life has crumbled us up and ground us into the dirt. We may make some bad decisions or have to deal with some poor circumstances. And sometimes our lives can make us feel worthless. But no matter what has happened, no matter what will happen, you never lose your worth. You never lose your value.
So let me see here. There we go. Yeah. So basically what I wanted to just say is the motivational motivational minute is that, you know, never feel like you lost your value, no matter what you have to endure in life, no matter what you may see in society, no matter what you think, you know, thing the media may be showing you. Understand that you have value, and understand the value that you have is never diminished based off of the circumstances. In fact, I think those circumstances actually help increase your value. You know what I mean? If you're able to withstand certain things and continue to stay strong and not feel like, you know, you lost part of yourself. That's major. And I reference that in regards to this is because I think a lot of times we will hear people say, like, you know, well, I just feel like, you know, once a black man gets into a certain position that they're not looking for, you know, black women, or once a black woman gets a certain amount of money, she's not looking for, you know, the average black man or anything like that. And I would say to someone that, you know, don't let that deter you if that's what, you know, you think you're seeing, to just stay, you know, to stay focused and stay diligent in your belief. If that's something that you feel is something that's strong that you would like to do for your own personal conviction. So that was my motivational minute of the motivational minute rather. And I just wanted to go ahead and share that with you guys. I want to thank you guys for all tapping in. You guys can catch our socials. That's going to be posted towards the end of this video. And with that, you know, I guess we're going to be ready to wrap up. Anybody else got anything?
Like,
Thank you,
share,
guys.
subscribe, tell a friend, all that stuff. What you say, Malik?
No, I was just saying thank you guys. You know, check us out. If you want us to talk about different topics, shoot us DMs, send us a comment, email us, all that good stuff. So
yeah, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Be serious about that. All right, y'all. It's been real. Thank you so much. We out. Peace.
Peace.